chosen ones. What you've just lived through wasn't chaos, it was divine choreography. They plotted, they lied, and they mocked you, but unknowingly they set the stage for your elevation. It's almost poetic. While they were busy weaving webs of deceit, you were quietly being refined in the fire of endurance. And now look at you, standing not just in survival, but in victory. This isn't luck. This is what happens when spiritual law meets divine justice. In psychology, this moment of reversal could be described as projection collapse, a phenomenon where those who spent energy attacking you eventually face the very shadows they tried to cast on you. Energy, after all, is cyclical. What's sent out must return, magnified. Have you ever noticed how the ones who once gloated in your pain now seem restless? They may not say it out loud, but their eyes tell the story. They're haunted by the memory of what they did, not because you curse them, but because truth has a frequency that echoes louder than lies. The Bible captures this beautifully in Proverbs 26:27. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Karma, consequence, or divine correction, whatever you call it, it's real, and you're witnessing it firsthand. When they underestimated you, they didn't realize they were measuring you by earthly standards, while you were operating with heavenly backing. Every time you chose silence over revenge, you aligned yourself with divine strategy. Psychology calls this emotional self-regulation. Spiritually, it's called faith in divine timing. You resisted the urge to react, and that restraint became your greatest weapon. Your peace confused them because they mistook stillness for weakness. But still waters run deep, and your calm was the evidence of someone who trusted the Most High's plan. Isaiah 54:17 says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." And you've proven that verse true, not through aggression, but through resilience. While they tried to pull you down, every act of malice became an unintentional blessing, pushing you closer to your purpose. Spiritually, this is what's known as the reversal, when what was meant for evil becomes the very force that propels divine elevation. Even science echoes this principle through Newton's third law. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The harm they intended for you had to find its way home. Now they're learning the hardest lesson of all, that divine justice doesn't need your help to deliver its verdict. The same mouths that mocked you are now silent. The same hands that plotted are now idle, and the same hearts that hated are now restless. Chosen one, your victory wasn't in proving them wrong. It was in outgrowing their entire game. You didn't win by force, you won by faith. And now as the dust settles, the world sees what heaven already knew. You were never the victim, you were the vessel. Point one, you chose observation over reaction. Chosen ones, your greatest weapon was never anger. It was awareness, the kind of awareness that doesn't shout, doesn't react, and doesn't need to prove anything. You see, while most people are moving through life on emotional autopilot, you've learned to move through spiritual discernment. You observe before you act. You read the energy in the room before you speak. And that, right there, is what sets you apart. Because in a world addicted to reaction, your silence speaks volumes. Your stillness cuts deeper than any argument, and your peace becomes a mirror that forces others to face their own chaos. Let's be honest, anger is easy. Anyone can explode when they're triggered. Anyone can clap back, argue, or let their emotions take the wheel. But awareness, that takes mastery. It takes years of spiritual training, shadow work, heartbreaks and awakenings to reach the point where you no longer need to fight every battle. You start to realize that not every conflict is yours to engage in, and not every invitation to chaos deserves your RSVP. You've learned that some people only understand power when it's loud, but the real ones know that quiet power is the deadliest kind. This is where your spiritual maturity shines. The moment you stopped reacting to the games, they realized you'd stopped playing altogether. You saw the board, the players, and the patterns long before they even recognized it was chess. That's because chosen ones operate on discernment. Your intuition is your GPS. You don't just see what's happening, you see why it's happening. You read the motives, the fears, and the spiritual lessons behind every encounter. And because of that, you don't waste energy trying to convince, control, or compete. You simply understand. Science even backs this up. Neurologically, people who practice mindfulness and awareness show greater activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and emotional regulation. In simple terms, your awareness literally rewires your brain to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. You've trained your nervous system to stay calm under pressure. So when others expected you to break, you breathed. When they tried to provoke you, you paused. When they demanded chaos, you offered stillness, and that scared them more than any confrontation could. Because calm, my friend, is not weakness, it's control. It's the ability to hold your ground without having to raise your voice. It's the spiritual discipline of saying, I see you, but I won't join you. It's walking away from toxicity. Not because you're afraid, but because you value your peace too much to participate in destruction. Your stillness isn't silence, it's strategy. It's how you protect your energy and maintain your connection to the divine. People who operate in darkness thrive on confusion, fear, and emotional reaction. They need chaos to survive because chaos clouds judgment. But when they encountered you calm, collected, and centered in truth, it dismantled their entire plan. Your peace became their punishment. Your awareness exposed their manipulation without you even speaking a word. You turned spiritual warfare into spiritual wisdom. Chosen ones, never underestimate how powerful your awareness truly is. It's what keeps you aligned when the world is loud. It's what allows you to see deception before it hits. And it's what makes your energy untouchable. While they rely on emotion to control, you rely on discernment to transcend. Remember, the quiet mind is not empty, it's full of light. And that light? It blinds every shadow that tries to reach you. So continue mastering your calm, because your peace is not passive, it's divine warfare in disguise. Point 2, you played the long game. They wanted quick wins, instant control, but you were patient. You understood something the world often forgets. Divine timing isn't delayed, it's deliberate. See, the chosen ones don't chase outcomes, they align with purpose. While others were scrambling to manufacture results overnight, you were quietly letting the universe prepare the soil for your harvest. You knew that anything built too fast often collapses just as quickly. And so you waited, not in weakness, but in wisdom. Patience is one of the most underrated spiritual superpowers. In a society addicted to speed, where everyone wants viral fame, instant success, or overnight love, your calm energy looks strange, even lazy to some. But the truth is, you weren't being idle. You were being intentional. You understood that divine timing operates like the orbit of planets, precise, synchronized, and beyond human manipulation. When you learned to trust that timing, you stopped begging for doors to open and started preparing for when they would. Here's the thing most people don't realize. When you move before your time, blessings can feel like burdens. Opportunities meant for you might not sustain you if you're not yet equipped to hold them. That's why you experienced delays. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Every closed door was actually God's way of keeping you hidden until your foundation was strong enough to carry what's coming. Every no was a sacred redirection, saving you from something your human mind couldn't yet see. And the people who wanted instant control, they burned out. They chased validation, manipulated outcomes, and mistook impatience for power. They wanted quick wins because their confidence depended on results, not on faith. They needed to prove they were winning, while you quietly trusted that what's meant for you could never be stolen. Even when you watched others race ahead, flaunting their temporary victories, you stayed rooted. Because you knew something divine, what grows slowly lasts longer. Every time you walked away from drama instead of defending yourself, you were planting seeds of peace that now grow into unshakable strength. Every time you refused to explain your silence, you were proving to the universe that your energy is sacred, not something to be spent convincing others of your worth. Those quiet moments, those tears in private, those long nights of wondering if your time would ever come, those were not wasted moments. They were spiritual investments, and now they're paying dividends. Nature itself teaches us this principle. A bamboo tree takes 5 years to sprout above the ground. For half a decade, it looks like nothing's happening. But beneath the surface, its roots are expanding, fortifying, preparing to support its sudden skyward growth. Then, once it's ready, it shoots up over 80 feet in just a few weeks. That's divine timing. That's you. The world may have thought you were stagnant, but really, you were becoming unshakable underground. When the fruit finally comes, it's sweeter because it was earned through endurance. When you finally step into your season, it's obvious that it wasn't luck. It was legacy. You endured the pruning, the waiting, the doubting eyes, and still remained faithful. And now, the same people who wanted to control outcomes are watching you flourish from roots they never saw, being planted. Chosen ones. Understand this. Patience is not passive, it's prophetic. It declares, I trust the author even when I don't understand the plot. You've learned that rushing divine timing is like opening an oven before the bread is baked. It ruins what could have been nourishing, but you let it rise. You let it bake. And now your blessings are coming out golden, undeniable, and perfectly timed. You are walking proof that slow miracles are still miracles. And your fruit? It's eternal. Point 3. You let God handle what you couldn't. The moment you stopped trying to fix them, God started exposing them. That was the quiet turning point, when you realized that your love, your effort, and your prayers couldn't save someone who was committed to misunderstanding you. You see, chosen one, your heart was wired to heal, to mend, to pour light where darkness lingered. You kept thinking, if I just love them a little harder, maybe they'll change. But what you didn't know was that God had been waiting for you to stop, because sometimes your desire to fix someone becomes the very thing that blocks their exposure. When you said, I'll let it go, they laughed. They mistook your silence for surrender, your peace for weakness, your distance for defeat. They didn't understand that letting go is not giving up. It's divine strategy. It's spiritual warfare without the noise. See, the world teaches us that power is in confrontation, in proving your point, in showing them what they lost. But heaven operates differently. God says, "Be still and know that I am God." When you stop trying to fix them, he stepped in with his own kind of justice, the kind that reveals hidden motives, unmasks intentions, and rearranges situations, so truth stands alone, undeniable and unshakable. They thought your withdrawal was a loss of control, but in reality, it was your initiation into mastery. True strength isn't found in how tightly you can hold on, but in how gracefully you can let go, because letting go is a spiritual art. It's the soul's way of saying, my spirit doesn't need to fight where my Creator already won. You didn't retreat, you realigned. You stopped running on emotion and started walking in discernment. You stopped chasing explanations and started trusting divine revelation. And that's when everything started to shift. The masks began to slip. Conversations you never heard about started surfacing. People who once defended them began to distance themselves. That's what happens when you let go. God exposes. It's not punishment, it's purification. The same people who once mocked your peace now find themselves restless. The same ones who doubted your intuition are now living in the very confusion they created. That's divine balance. Energy always returns to its source. It's a universal law. Even physics agrees. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transferred. The love you poured into them didn't vanish. It's simply returning to you in new forms. Peace, clarity, and blessings. Every tear you cried became a seed. Every moment of restraint became a shield. Every silent prayer became a summons for God's hand to move. You didn't lose by walking away. You leveled up spiritually. Because when you stop trying to fix others, you start fixing your alignment with God's plan for your life. The truth is, chosen ones are not called to fix people. They're called to inspire people. There's a difference. Fixing drains your spirit because it assumes control. Inspiring empowers others to find their own light. You had to learn the hard way that not everyone wants healing. Some people are addicted to their chaos. And that's okay. You were never meant to be their savior. You were meant to be their wake-up call. So the next time someone calls you cold for walking away, remember, detachment is not a lack of love. It's the highest form of faith. You've learned that sometimes you honor God not by fighting for someone, but by stepping aside so he can fight through you. That's how you truly beat them. Not with bitterness, but with boundaries. Not through struggle, but through surrender. Because surrender is not losing the battle. It's acknowledging that the war was never yours to fight in the first place. Point 4, you stayed authentic while they performed. You see, chosen one, the world has become a grand masquerade. Everyone is wearing masks so polished that sometimes even they forget who's underneath. They call it socializing, networking, playing the game. But you've always known something was off. You tried to fit in once, didn't you? You wore the smile that didn't reach your soul. You tried to talk their language of pretense and power. But it felt wrong, heavy, like trying to breathe through someone else's lungs. So, you stopped performing. You dropped the act. And the moment you did that, the world turned its eyes on you, because authenticity is rare and truth has a strange way of making people uncomfortable. See, the truth about the chosen ones is this. You don't just live in this world, you see it. You see the masks people wear, the perfectly curated smiles, the filtered happiness, the I'm fine that really means I'm breaking. You can sense when someone's words are out of tune with their spirit. It's not that you're judgmental. It's that your spirit vibrates on truth, and lies sound like static to your soul. While they were trying to impress, you were trying to heal. Let's sit with that for a moment. That's huge. While the world was chasing validation, you were chasing understanding. While they were polishing their image, you were cleansing your energy. You were the quiet observer in a room full of noise. And even though they might have laughed at your silence, the universe was watching your sincerity. Now here's something factual. Psychologically speaking, humans are wired to seek acceptance. That's why people adapt, imitate, and perform. It's part of the social survival mechanism. But what they don't realize is that authenticity, being genuine, is the ultimate superpower. Studies show that authentic individuals have higher levels of self-esteem, stronger emotional resilience, and even better health. Why? Because when you stop pretending, your nervous system relaxes. You're no longer living in fight or flight mode, trying to maintain an illusion. You're living in flow. And spiritually, authenticity is even more sacred. It's the highest form of worship. Because when you're real, you're aligned with the Creator. You become a vessel for divine truth, not a puppet of public opinion. You stop existing as a reflection of others and start radiating your own light. And yes, it costs you things: fake friends, shallow approval, temporary belonging. But it gives you everything that's eternal: peace, purpose, and power that no mask can imitate. Chosen one, understand this. When people wear masks long enough, they forget who they are. But you never forgot. You may have stumbled, questioned yourself, felt alone in rooms full of smiling faces, but your spirit refused to dim. You kept your heart pure in a world that rewards performance. That's why your energy is different. It's not polished. It's potent. It's real, raw, and radiant. And that's what will outlast every illusion. In the end, when the lights go off and the audience goes home, authenticity stands tall. Truth doesn't age, it doesn't expire, and it doesn't need applause. The fakes may trend for a season, but the real ones, the chosen ones, become timeless. So don't envy the ones who seem ahead. Their masks may glitter now, but they'll crack under the weight of their own deception. You, on the other hand, have nothing to hide, and that's your divine armor. Because when the dust settles and the performances fade, the real ones, the healers, the lovers, the truth bearers, are the only ones left standing. You are one of them. You stayed real. You stayed pure. And that's why, in the end, authenticity will always win. Point 5, you healed instead of hating. The biggest revenge? Healing. Because when you heal, you break the cycle. You no longer react to their projections. You outgrow them. And that's what hurts them the most. They wanted you angry, broken, and vengeful. Instead, you turned their betrayal into wisdom. You became too healed to hate. See, chosen one, that's the thing people don't understand about spiritual strength. It's not loud. It's not about shouting that you've moved on or proving that you've grown. True healing is silent, internal, and sacred. It's the art of taking the pain that was meant to destroy you and using it as the soil to grow something divine. The universe doesn't reward those who strike back. It rewards those who rise above. Healing is not weakness. It's mastery of energy. It means you've learned to alchemize your pain instead of recycling it. When someone wrongs you, the natural human instinct is retaliation. Our brains are wired for justice. When hurt, we want balance, and often that means getting even. But that's where most people stay. trapped in the same energy loop as their offender. You, however, are different. When you choose healing, you don't just let it go, you transform it. You strip the experience of its power to harm you again. Studies in psychology show that forgiveness and emotional regulation literally rewire neural pathways, reducing stress and promoting long-term peace of mind. That's not just spiritual talk, it's scientific. When you heal, your brain stops identifying with the trauma. You stop replaying the moment. You stop bleeding every time someone mentions their name. You become free. And freedom, to those still stuck in bitterness, feels like revenge. Because here's the truth, your peace irritates those who built their identity on your pain. They thrived when you were broken because it made them feel powerful. They controlled your emotions, dictated your energy, and kept you in their orbit. But the moment you rise, the moment you stop reacting, they lose control. It's like a mirror. They can no longer project their chaos into you, and that silence, that calmness, becomes deafening to them. Healing starves their ego. That's why they try to provoke you again, because your peace exposes their lack of it. But you, chosen one, have learned something they never did. You've learned how to sit with yourself. You've learned that revenge doesn't rebuild you, it just keeps you trapped in the ruins. Healing, on the other hand, reconstructs your soul. It teaches you to see betrayal as divine redirection, pain as purification, and endings as new beginnings. You stop chasing closure because you realize the closure was never meant to come from them. It was meant to come from within. You realize that forgiveness doesn't mean they were right. It means I choose to no longer suffer. Spiritually speaking, healing raises your vibration. The higher you rise, the less accessible you become to low-frequency behavior. You start attracting peace instead of conflict, understanding instead of chaos. And that's when you notice something beautiful. Life starts aligning with you. Opportunities appear, your intuition sharpens, and your energy feels lighter. You no longer crave validation because your soul becomes your home. And when you operate from that space, no enemy can reach you. They can talk, they can lie, and they can project, but they can't touch a healed soul. That's why healing is the biggest revenge. Because it's not about showing them you're better. It's about becoming so whole that their actions no longer define you. They tried to wound you, and instead they woke you. They tried to break you, and instead they built your strength. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means remembering without bitterness. It's walking past the fire that once burned you, smiling, because you now carry the light within. That's what truly burns them. The fact that the person they tried to destroy no longer exists. You became someone new, someone unshakable, someone healed. Point 6. You became the mirror, chosen ones. Let's talk about something the world rarely admits but deeply feels. Your very presence became a mirror. You didn't need to say a word. You didn't have to prove your worth. You just existed authentically, peacefully, and in tune with yourself, and that alone shook entire atmospheres. You see, people love the idea of light until it starts exposing what's been hiding in their own shadows. That's exactly what your energy does. It reflects, it reveals, it confronts. And that's why they flinch when you walk into the room, not because of who you think you are, but because of what they can't hide when you're near. Psychologically speaking, this phenomenon is known as the mirror effect. In human behavior studies, it's said that people subconsciously project their inner world onto others, meaning when someone encounters a person radiating calmness, self-awareness or joy, qualities they themselves haven't cultivated, it often triggers discomfort, even resentment. It's not personal, it's spiritual physics. Your peace became a mirror for their chaos. It showed them what they could be, but aren't, what they could heal, but won't. And that quiet power of yours, it's not arrogance, it's alignment. Chosen ones, you were never meant to blend in, because your energy was designed to awaken, not appease. The light you carry, that sense of clarity, integrity, and authenticity, isn't just a personality trait, it's frequency. Science has shown that the human heart emits an electromagnetic field that can be measured several feet outside the body. In other words, your emotions, your intentions, and your inner state, they're literally vibrating through the air around you. When your frequency rises through healing, prayer, meditation, or self-reflection, people operating in lower vibrations can feel it. It unsettles them. It doesn't match their static signal. And suddenly, without you even meaning to, you've disrupted their comfort zone. You became the sermon they didn't ask for. Your growth exposed their stagnation. Every time you elevated spiritually, emotionally, mentally, it forced them to look at their own reflection. Some responded with admiration, some with envy, and others with avoidance. That's why people you once connected with suddenly fell silent. They weren't ghosting you. They were avoiding accountability. Your presence was preaching a truth their ego wasn't ready to hear, that staying small was a choice, not a destiny. And it's funny, isn't it? You thought your glow-up would make people proud, but instead it made some of them distant. That's because when light shines, darkness doesn't applaud, it panics. Even in physics, light dispels darkness instantly, not gradually. It's a sudden exposure. Likewise, your awakening brought clarity to places that had long been comfortable in confusion. You didn't judge, but your mere clarity highlighted their denial. You didn't criticize, but your peace revealed their inner wars. There's a quote that says, "When you heal, you disturb the unhealed version of others." And that's your truth, chosen one. Your energy doesn't just exist, it activates. You carry a divine disruptor frequency. When you walk in peace, it challenges chaos. When you choose self-respect, it confronts insecurity. When you move in faith, it exposes fear. That's why people react the way they do. They're not rejecting you. They're wrestling with the version of themselves they see reflected through you. So don't shrink your light to make them comfortable. Let it shine. Because some will hate it, yes, but others will heal because of it. You're not here to fit into the room, you're here to transform the atmosphere. You are proof that peace is possible, growth is real, and light wins every time. Keep glowing, chosen one, because even when darkness panics, light still leads the way. Point 7, you moved in silence, and God made the noise. Oh, chosen ones, this is the ultimate reason you won. You didn't announce your plans, you vanished like the calm before a divine storm. You stopped feeding the noise, and stopped explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand your journey. Instead, you chose silence, your most powerful weapon. While they gossiped, doubted, and tried to dissect your every move, you were quietly rewriting your destiny. The funny thing about silence is that it confuses the unhealed. They mistake it for weakness when in truth it's sacred preparation. Spiritually, this phase of withdrawal is known as the hermit stage, a period when chosen ones are divinely pulled away from distractions so they can be rebuilt in private. It's not isolation, it's initiation. Think of monks retreating into solitude to strengthen their inner spirit, or how caterpillars vanish into cocoons before revealing their wings. You were doing the same, shedding old versions of yourself, recalibrating your energy and aligning with divine timing. The universe had you on airplane mode for a reason, and while others plotted your downfall, you were mastering stillness, one of the highest spiritual disciplines. Even science backs it. When you disconnect from chaos and enter solitude, your brain increases alpha wave activity, boosting creativity, focus, and intuition. That's not coincidence. That's cosmic engineering. Your silence became the soil for growth, your patience the proof of faith. You stopped reacting and started manifesting. You didn't need to clap back. Your comeback became your response. Now look at you. The glow up isn't just physical, it's energetic. You radiate peace that can't be faked, and everyone can feel it. That's what happens when a chosen one aligns with divine order. Your life becomes the sermon, your success the prophecy fulfilled. You didn't have to expose your enemies. God did that for you. And the same people who doubted you are now witnesses to your elevation. You see, when you move in silence, God moves in power. And when God moves, every enemy is forced to watch the show. So keep walking quietly, spirit warrior. Your silence is still speaking volumes in realms they can't even hear. Chosen ones, you didn't just survive, you mastered the art of divine strategy. You didn't beat them by stooping to their level, you beat them by rising higher. They can't stand that your strength came from surrender, that your silence screamed louder than confrontation. And now they're left replaying the scenes of their own downfall. As it says, Exodus 14, remember this, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Your stillness was never weakness. It was spiritual warfare in disguise. So stand tall, chosen ones. You've earned your peace. You've earned your healing. And now walk boldly into your next chapter, because the same God who helped you beat them is about to reward you publicly for the battles you fought privately.